Eugene couldn't cope any longer, but in today's Fairy on Fog Entertainment, how long was Eugene a rat? Welcome back to the channel. And when we actually look at it and we look at Eugene Porter, right? That's definitely not his name. That's the guy from The Walking Dead, but we know Eugene here from The Sopranos. The way it was portrayed in this episode is almost like he just turned rat to try and get this Florida move sorted, right? But it doesn't make any sense because if that was the logic, right, well that might work. But the dialogue from when Eugene jumps into the front seat of the car with the FBI agents, the one that flipped Adriana, or was in charge of her case, it was pretty much right. The guy is like, "Oh, I haven't heard from you in a while, Eugene." And in this first episode, the season 6 premiere, it's not like there's like a massive time skip in terms of this episode. I mean, the episode begins and Eugene gets his inheritance money. We see Fito's lost a lot of weight. Now, maybe if Fito floated the idea of Tony about going to Florida at the back end of season 5, and then when season 6 begins after a couple of years time skip, then maybe I would have accepted this. I just don't. I don't. It doesn't really. It doesn't really make any sense how Eugene would have been a rat for much longer. Like this episode, they were putting over Raymond Curto when he was sly and dead, which I think honestly, what did he add to the show? It's like, oh, they don't make stand up guys like him anymore, and he was a fucking rat. I mean, it was kind of funny, but it's like his death was just so lackluster. And Eugene's like, "What? Raymond was a rat," but the police didn't actually address to that. So obviously Raymond was a rat, but he's sitting there, and then it's like, right, Eugene, what did he flip this episode? I've typed it into Google. I've went on to Reddit. There's different people saying that once Tony closed the door via Silvio, because Silvio was the one that sadly broke the news to Eugene that it wouldn't happen. Obviously, Chris said he'd put a good word in if Eugene killed Teddy up in Boston, which Eugene did. Pretty brutal death, by the way. He's like, "Are you Teddy? Yeah, nice to meet you." Couple of rounds fired in to Big Teddy. R.I.P. Teddy, man. Didn't exactly go according to plan for him in the slightest. He's dead. He's gone. And then Eugene came down, and I like the fact that he was like wiping the blood off his face, and he put it on the map that showed like New York and Jersey. Pretty good touch there from the director of the episode. But for me, it's like, how many characters in this show actually become rats? I'm not convinced Eugene was a rat. I think it's a writing flaw. But the FBI agent wouldn't say to Eugene, "Haven't heard from you in a while," if he'd just turned rat. So that makes me believe that Eugene was a rat for a decent period. But not only was Tony telling him that Florida couldn't happen, FBI were telling him it couldn't happen. And it's like, how long could Eugene realistically tell the FBI about Florida? But then, if he was a rat, it wouldn't make logical sense that he would be able to leave the crew and move down to Florida, because they'd be like, "No, we need you to stay in the crew in order to get information, or else you're arrested." So he must have went to the FBI after Tony said no and said, "Here, I'll give you information, but you need to facilitate me and move to Florida." But then at the same time, that doesn't really work. The only way that works is if he rats and then they do witness protection and send him to Florida that way. But then he even said like he'd testify. I mean, it was a tragic case in this episode of Eugene, but I think the writing is a bit flawed there. It's like, even if he gets the witness protection down in Florida, Tony would obviously know where he went. I mean, Sylvia would know, Christopher would know, Fito would know, everybody would know where Eugene went. So for me, I think it's a bit of a flaw, because it's like, even if he gets the Florida dream via ratting, it's like Tony would know where he is, but then it's like, "Oh, I'll come back and testify." They would just wipe him out when he came back to testify. And then also, again, he pointed, "Oh, I'll work for Florida." But Tony, maybe if Eugene went with the initial plan to Tony, "Here, Tony, I got my aunt's inheritance, and you know, I'm thinking and I'm wanting to go down to Florida. Can I work for Florida? We've seen Ralph do it, but I think Eugene went the wrong way about it. But I'd be intrigued to hear your guys' opinion because for me, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, no matter what way, if it was before or during the episode. So leave it down below.